Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And I want to talk today about one of my favorite interviews that Duff has done. So it's probably his most candid and most honest interview he's probably done as well. So he did an interview for a publication called Popular One, which I think is based out of Spain. So this is from the year 2000. And, Duff had been out of Guns N' Roses for about 3 years. He talked pretty candidly about his experience in Guns N' Roses, why he quit the band, how he quit the band. He even talked about looking back at his album, Believe in Me, from 1993, and what it was like touring with Guns N' Roses and the craziness that followed. He also talked about his relationship with Axl Rose, which some may surprise a lot of people, considering he was still in contact with Axl even after he left Guns N' Roses in 1997. He talked about his health problems, his sobriety, and even going to school and university. So I want to talk about some of the interesting passages and things he had to say. If you guys want to read the entire interview, I've linked to it down below. So the beginning of the interview starts up with what he's been up to, whether record labels are interested in him. Now, he starts off by answering a question about his opinion about Believe in Me. So the interviewer asked, what's your opinion about Believe in Me when you listen to it today? He said, I think it was a private record. I think it was me trying to fix my private life and was not really a whole album. It was more like a diary. I don't know if you knew already, but while we were touring, I was writing songs and one thing led to another. He said, yeah, I was doing it while touring with Guns N' Roses, and Geffen suggested to make a record. It was a big step to take because those were really private songs. I think it was a good picture of my life at the time. Would I release the record now? No way, but I'm proud of it for what it was. For several reasons, it was my Johnny Thunders record. He was also asked about how they actually set up the Neurotic Outsiders. So he was still in Guns N' Roses when the Neurotic Outsiders got, set up and they recorded an album. So he said, I was still in Guns when the idea started to take shape, but we were idle. I used to go to our practice space. Me and Matt would play for a while, but no one else would show up. Slash was having trouble with Axl, and well, you know the story already. Axl would finally show up at 4 a.m. Oh well, F it. I realized I didn't want to wait until 4 in the morning to practice anymore. My life had changed. I'm not going to talk shit about anyone. Everyone does their things for their own reasons. I've grown more reasonable, and I think I've always been, but now I stick to it. I do as I say and say as I think. I was not going to be like, okay, it's fine, man, I'll swallow it again. No, I faced it and said, no way, this is not fair. If it happens 3 more times, I'm out. So he said, well, it did happen. So Jonesy, referring to Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, and I had been practicing and playing some gigs because Guns were doing nothing. We were playing the Viper Room every Monday night. It was awesome. We did it for charity. Afterwards, we got a record deal. Of course, our interest was not beyond that, but as soon as you try to keep something quiet, record companies start to pop up everywhere. He said, we didn't want to make a record, but we finally said, F Maverick, make us a good offer. They said, hey, you don't have to tour. We realize you each have your own stuff to do. So we said, okay, and we did the record. He said he loved that record. I was going to work with Steve Jones, and he's my friend. We wanted to play some gigs, which is something I hope I'll be able to do for a long time. I think the band's fans realized that what the whole thing was about. It was something we did once and for a certain time, so there was no pressure involved at all. Now, Duff also talked about his health problems in 1994. He was asked by the interviewer what happened exactly. He said, I had laid off drugs and joined my band for a European tour. I didn't do drugs anymore, but was drinking like crazy. I always needed a cocktail by the bed when I woke up in the middle of the night because else I'd feel awful. I wanted to stop the whole thing, but I couldn't. After Europe, I went to Japan and then back home. I had bought this house in Seattle, the place where I was raised. I was laying at home when I felt a pungent pain. At the moment, I thought it was weird, though, to be honest, I was in pain all the time. I was real effed. But this time the pain began to extend and became more severe and lasted so long that I couldn't even move, not even wake up to call 911. Luckily, a friend dropped by and I heard him down the stairs crying, hey, where are you? When he entered the room, I couldn't even shout. I was upstairs, but he came to my room, found me, and took me to the hospital. My pancreas had exploded and a shitload of toxins were running around my stomach. When this kind of thing F's up, a lot of people die, but I did not. I could go on to tell you the experience in the hospital, but you didn't want to hear the details. And the interviewer asked, I guess it must have had you reconsider a lot of things. And he said, well, it had to happen. It's the only way you will stop. I saw myself in the hospital with all those tubes and shit. It changed my life completely. It was like, hey, you can be proud for being here. You haven't died. You've done a lot of crazy stuff and you ain't dead. It was the end you were heading for, but it did not happen. You were here for a reason. Now I'm going to enjoy my second life. Well, I think the record we are putting up is also a good reason to keep alive as well. Now, Duff does say one thing that he contradicted in his book. He was asked by the interviewer, when you were real sick, did anyone in Guns N' Roses or your other bands try to help you out? He said, Slash, yes, Slash. My friends in Seattle and my family were there. Now, in his book, he says that the only person who visited him up in Seattle was Axl, and then this was like in 1994, and him and Axl would go bike riding and talk about the direction of the next Guns N' Roses album. Now, he was asked by the interviewer when Izzy left Guns N' Roses. He supposedly did so for the same reasons you did, because Guns N' Roses turned into a big money-making machine. Is that right? And Duff nodded. Can you give us something about that and why Guns N' Roses became this money-making thing? He said, if you give too much to someone like Axl, let's put it this way, if everyone around you is answering yes for years, if everything is reduced to yes, 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 then your relation with other people, when someone says no, you think that person is wrong. You're going to tell them to F off. You're in this band from the start, and then suddenly everything turns autocratic. Just because one person is surrounded by people saying yes to everything, it's not autocratically legal. He also said, but there is just one person thinking that's his band. Well, then keep your damn band. One can't stand it anymore. I love each and every member of Guns N' Roses, and that feeling is not going to fade away. I would do anything for them, no question, but people change. I've changed. I've got a larger goal in my life now, so what could I do? Be pissed and make a lot of money? To me, making music is not oriented to making money. If you're in it for the money, then you're in it for the wrong reason. You'll never make any good music, I can tell you. He was also asked, when you left the band, how did it all happen? You said you were out. You said you needed to talk. And Duff said, yeah, I just talk, sit down and talk. I told them I had changed. I said if they needed help, they could just call me. I told Axl that this was his band. He ignored everyone and hired his best friend for the band. I couldn't play with him, Paul Hughey. That was the guy. He's a friend of Axl. He's a yes man. So Duff was also asked, why couldn't you play with Paul Hughey? To which Duff said, man, you can't be in Guns N' Roses just like that. That was a real band. Do you play guitar? He asked the interviewer. The interviewer said no, to which Duff said, well, imagine you and I grew up together and you're my best friend. Okay, I'm in Guns N' Roses and I tell the rest that you're going to join the band. Okay, Slash, Axl, Matt, guys, this is the guy in the band. Duff, you got him in it? No, he's in the band. Well, no, everyone in the band has to vote it. I'm not going to do anything unless this guy's in the band, Axl said. Okay, you know what? We'll try and play with him since you're that much interested. Hey, Duff, the guy can't play. I don't care. Well, that's not very reasonable. I don't care. At that point, what do you do? I came to the point where I couldn't even look at him, referring to Paul Hughey. If I were in such a situation, if I were the friend joining the band, I'd say, hey guys, you've done very good yourselves alone. I'm not going any further. Hey, Duff, thanks for the offer, but I'm breaking your band. But he didn't say that. So the interviewer also asked Duff about what songs Guns N' Roses were working on, or what did they sound like during those 1994 to 1997 sessions. He said there was no sound, there was no nothing. We didn't play, we tried. Matt and I did play. It was cool when Slash joined for a week. Even when Zakk Wylde and Slash played together, there were a couple of songs which was a natural progression, and they were very rocking. You can imagine they were really hard songs, as hard as I liked them, yeah, but I can't tell you what they sounded like. There was no definite sound. He also talked about what it was like working with Zakk Wylde for a brief time. He said, I liked it a lot. He's a good guy. He's the funniest guy I know. You can't help but liking him. I worked with him, and the guy's a genius. When he sits at the piano and starts playing, he can bring your eyes to tears. When he was 18, he was like the champion in his state of playing piano. He also talked a bit about Steven Adler. So he was asked by the interviewer, do you keep in touch with Steven Adler? No one seems to know what he's been up to lately. To which Duff said, very little. Steven damaged himself a lot. The only thing you can do for the guy is cry for him. It's hard to talk to him sometimes. He's still the same guy, but there's a lot of things that have changed him forever. He also said at that time that Steven wasn't doing anything musically, and then the interviewer asked him about what he feels when he listens to Use Your Illusion 9 years after the album came out. He said, I think they are amazing records, and it was an honor to perform in such records like those because of the very different styles that the songs covered. I like to have been a part of that. He was also asked by the interviewer about the Use Your Illusion tour, how it was unique because the band was touring stadiums and playing songs that no one had ever heard before. And he said, yeah, it was strange. It all started because Axl or someone said, hey, we're going to play songs from the new record that's out in a month or two. How's that? And we all said, cool. People were thankful about that too because it was like, hey, we're the first to listen to these songs. So I think it was all good. We were just a band playing. He was then asked about his opinion about Get in the Ring. He said, you know what? I wrote part of that song. The title was Why Do You Look at Me When You Hate Me? And it was about the press writing shit about us. Well, why do you write about us if you actually hate us? I could give you the names of those that hated us. Why didn't the press hire another person to write about us instead of bashing us? Why did they even write about us? I was very idealistic and I thought the world had changed. You need a lot of negative energy within to write so much about someone you actually hate. And then the interviewer asked, Izzy said he didn't understand why Axl came to the point of mentioning in the songs the journalists that he hated. To which Duff said, the song was sort of a joke and it all started with that song. He said, then Axl took it very personal. He thought it was a good idea, but definitely if there's some filthy people that need to be treated like filth, who cares? F them. So that does it for part 1 of this interview. I'm going to cover part 2 in a separate video, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to read the entire interview, it's linked to down below. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections, and be sure to like this video if you enjoyed listening to what Duff had to say back in the year 2000. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links to my social media channels are down below, and the page to my Patreon feed is also down below as well if you want to support my channel. Take care.